금요일날 아침 5시 반이 막 돼갑니다. 이거는 어제 뉴욕타임즈에 퇴직에 관한 아주 긴 글이 나왔습니다. 제목이 뭐냐면 Unending Together Time in Retirement, Like it or not. Life after work is meant to be golden, but it can be trying for many couples. 끝날 때까지 같이 있어야 되는데 퇴직 후에 좋아하건 말든 근데 이게 많은 부부한테 평생의 시련의 시기가 될 수 있다. 맞아, 이게 From the Magazine 잡지에서 인용된 글인데 지금 큰 제목이 이렇게 돼 있어가지고 퇴직에 또 큰 한 페이지가 지금 돼 있습니다. 퇴직 골치 아프죠 이게. 제가 한번 쭉 읽어서 목소리로 남기겠습니다. Unending together time in retirement. Like it or not, life after work is meant to be golden, but it can be trying for many couples. This spring, Joe and Barbara, a retired couple in their 60s, sat down with me at a bistro in suburban Connecticut to talk about their relationship. That they were sitting there together at all was something of a triumph. In the past few days, they had hurled at each other the kind of accusation that couples make when they are on the brink of mutual destruction. They were bruised from the words that had been exchanged. And although they sat close to each other, their energy was quiet and heavy. Barbara and Joe met 13 years ago, two divorced people who had relentlessly climbed their way up from working class backgrounds. Barbara rose to be the vice president of a wholesale apparel business before moving into the retail, then winding down her career to keep herself busy. She still sells the vintage clothing online a few hours a day. Joe co-founded a delivery business that is sold in 2021 for an amount that meant he would never have to work again. He retired in January last year. He and Barbara had time. They had money. They had leisure. They also had a problem. They were driving each other mad. Barbara briefed me on her experience before we met in person. Since retirement, she reported Joe had found himself untethered. He was underfoot, always around and not exactly occupied. It was bad enough that he was spending hours on his phone, scrolling through Instagram. Bad enough that he was doing so on a couch in the living room, a space that had always been hers and hers alone throughout the day. Now, he also wanted her to look at the funny dog-cut videos that made him laugh, and yes, the funny uh, pig videos, pig videos too. She did not find this particularly sexy, but he also wanted more sex than when he was working. One of many ways she felt the burden of keeping him entertained. Love him very much, she wrote, but I'm going crazy or going back to work, whichever comes first. At lunch that day, Joe wore a pink flannel shirt that suited him and had clearly been picked out by someone with a tasteful eye. He seemed nervous about discussing his relationship, which reflected just one of the many differences the couple had to negotiate. Barbara was frank and open by nature. Joe was more private, which is why they requested that only their first names be used. For years, Joe said he had been monomaniacally focused on his exit, on selling the business. He had given almost no thought to what his life would look like. Once he finally did. I had visions of going to the gym, he said, that turned out to take up no more than an hour of each day. Then what? He was at something of a loss. It's been a kind of transition, trying to move away from people that were like my second family. He said, it's been a little enlightening that once you are gone, you are gone. Transition as significant as marrying or having children. Retirement is a stage that many couples anticipate with little of the trepidation those earlier choices inspired. They look forward to it as a reward for years of hard work. Yet retirement, like any big transition, often entails destabilizing shift that take many people by surprise. Although it's still rare for married couples over 60 to break up, the divorce rate is rising faster in that age group than in any other, as baby boomers, accustomed to self-actualization, reach retirement age and evaluate their lives anew. The retirement page amplifies everything, actually, the absence of true collaboration, whether they were really friends. The relationship can have an identity crisis, says Allison, a therapist who works primarily with couples in New York. H said retirement is a time when the issue that couples have been avoiding, aided by the distraction of work or child rearing or both, come roaring to the forefront. There are disagreements now about how to envision this new stage of life, she said. The retirement page amplifies everything, actually, the absence of true collaboration, whether they were really friends, whether they had a shared narrative. All of these things get heightened now because we have less time. They have less time on a grander scale, while contending suddenly with more free time in their waking hours. Many couples disagree on how to spend it. More time can also lay bare the reality that some couples did better with less of it. Why are you here? After some 50 years of marriage, decades during which she often wished her husband worked fewer hours. Why, at age 73, found herself hoping that the office might reclaim him. When her husband retired from the buildings he built, why was still working from their home in Charlotte, NC, as a quality assurance specialist for a network of research sites, and she could feel him hovering near her desk of the kitchen as he did busy work on his laptop. Having left her largely in charge for most of their marriage of raising two daughters, dealing with the home and managing her own career, her husband Richard now seemed to have had some later in life revelation that his wife could clearly benefit from his input. He had ideas about how she should manage her team, which is sometimes shared after she completed Zoom calls. She should have told them to solve a problem a certain way or given them more direction. The advice irritated why, who is not a fan of micromanagement of herself or others. I'm a very private person, Wise said, and the fact that he was even listening to my phone calls was, my God, it was like, I can't believe you are doing this. What? Why are you here? Yeah, sometimes he walked past her computer and waved and smiled and mugged for her co-workers, which annoyed her just as much as his unsolicited counsel. She wondered, was this what it was like as a boss at the buildings he ran? She supposed so. She had never given her husband's work personal much thought. That part of his life was separate from her own, but instead of receding now that he was retired, it seemed to be taking up even more space. When Richard started picking up consulting work to stave off his own restlessness, he took over their kitchen, spreading papers and folders on various surfaces and leaving half-filled coffee cups and laptop chargers lying around. It destroys the energy in the house. Wise said she told me they had agreed that he could no longer work in the kitchen area. Richard seemed to have the impression that he had simply promised to clean up at the end of each day. He told me that his wife was becoming a minimalist. I'm kind of the opposite, he said, I always tended to spread it out like the mold. Y and Richard shared at least a similar vision of how to approach their finances, which can be a source of tension for many retired couples. Financial troubles can rob couples of their peace of mind, and even those who are well prepared financially are often surprised to find that they have a different instinct about how to manage their savings. Financial disagreement. Francis and Tito, pharmacists from California, had saved carefully for years. After they retired, Apple in 2016, T in 2017, Apple was determined to hold on tight to the money they worked so hard to earn. But T, who had a family from and in Panama and the Barbados, wanted to travel frequently to the Caribbean. He had done the calculation and knew that with their savings and investment, they could afford it. But fear was baked into Apple's decision-making process. At age 12, she experienced the precipitous collapse of our family's financial security when her father died unexpectedly and the mother fell ill. No matter how many times T explained the mess, she worried that they would run out of funds. You've got to change the way you think, T recalled telling her. That was many hours of discussion. Eventually, they hired a financial advisor who delivered the same information that T was already providing. App could accept it from a professional, and she was able to move on from what seemed like an unshakable stance. In 2020, App and T moved to Panama near his family. Now they faced the question of travel in the reverse. How much time were they going to spend with their grandchildren back in the United States, having been more reluctant to leave for Panama in the first place? All her roots were in California and Maryland. App was now trying to build a life in their new home, which meant making a fierce commitment to spending time there. T, who already had a strong connection in Panama, and much more eager to spend longer periods with the grandchildren. Not long after moving to Panama, App and T became friendly with Charlotte Van Horn, a fellow retiree who left her career as a legal assistant and had since built a business helping black couples make home there. App and T had found a way to negotiate their different preferences about travel, but sometimes Van Horn says the issue of how much time to spend where and with whom is the thing that ultimately divide the previously happy couples. You have one person who says, I'm not leaving the grandchildren. Van says, and the other says, I've spent my whole life staying in certain places and doing certain things because I was raising my own kids. I'm not going to let someone else's kids keep me from doing what I really want to do in my life. Early in his career, Jay, a founder of the Gottman Institute, a center devoted to the study of successful marriages, believed that the best predictor of happiness in retirement would be a robust second identity for one or both of the members of the couple outside of work. So if you were a mechanic, but you also sang in the choir in church on weekends, or you flew hang gliders or something like that, and it was important to you, Gottman thought, then the pain of the loss of one identity would be dulled by the full emergence of the second, weathering the transition. But research over the years has found only a limited effect of a second identity on happiness. The much more important factor, she told me, is the quality of the marriage before retirement. The health and retirement study, a sweeping U.S. research project now in its 25th year, found that an unhappy marriage predicts unhappiness in retirement more than declines in wealth or even health, says Moore, a professor at the University of Florida who studies the retirement adjustment. Whether couples are able to help each other stretch, a concept that social scientists call self-expansion, also matters. Strong self-expansion skill. The ability to make new friends or pick up new interests that require dedicated learning are correlated with everything from general well-being to even weight loss and cognitive health. Not surprising, researchers in 2020 found that couples who reported high levels of that kind of reinforcement, encouraging each other to try something new. For example, were happier and were weathering the transition much better. Barbara told me that she had been encouraging Joe to try new things. At the same time, she clearly didn't see it as a job to figure it out for him what those things might be. She frustrated easily. Her irritation was a function of how previously close she was to losing touch with what she admired in this tremendously industrious and competent partner. My friends tell me I'm going to lose him, Barbara said. They tell me, you have to be nicer, but I just can't. I am who I am. After all, these years that I can't change. At lunch, Jay said there were, in fact, things he would like to be doing with his time if he could only get motivated to focus on them, such as, I always wanted to play guitar, he said. Couldn't a guitar instructor visit the house one day a week, provide some focus, some company, some structure? Barbara and Joe seemed to brighten at the thought. That was something he could do. Maybe there were other things they could do, like the rethink how they used space if they were always in each other's way. In the weeks after our conversation, Joe and Barbara seemed to pull themselves back from the brink. Joe had on his own found a guitar instructor. He spent hours on the phone with Barbara's ex-husband, an avid musician, talking about how to tune and clamp the instrument. After the instructor came and gave Joe his first lesson, he was even more enthusiastic. Since then, he had been working for hours on the song he was learning, a piece, a cover, Last Kiss. Barbara loved hearing it. She was moving away from her insistence that she couldn't change, that she wouldn't change, to a recognition that maybe she could and should, even if it took the effort. She prided herself on being strong, on being independent. Her response to a hardscrabble childhood in which she was overlooked. You know, I just want to do what I want to do, she said. I'm not someone who's going to feel tremendous guilt about not doing something I don't want to do. But then I think that can get crazy. And then the thought of him not being around, of being with someone else, make me think, what are these big sacrifices I'm making? The big sacrifice would be if we won together. Adapted from an article that originally appeared in the New York Times magazine.